Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. President Joe Biden's executive order on the U.S.-Mexico border is now in effect. Under the order, migrants caught crossing illegally could be deported or turned back to their country of origin. The president says there are exceptions for unaccompanied children, those with serious medical issues, and victims of trafficking. Witness testimony continuing today in Hunter Biden's gun trial. Federal prosecutors showing jurors evidence of the president's son's drug problem, saying it was still going on when he bought a gun and saying he lied on a form to buy it. Hunter Biden's ex-wife, Caitlin Buell, taking the stand today. The two were married for 20 years. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges. If convicted, he faces 25 years in prison. Millions in the Southwest are under heat advisories today. Forecasters saying we could hit dangerously hot temperatures in states farther north and east later in the week. Forecasters saying temperatures are likely to top 110 degrees in some areas by tomorrow. We could be setting new records. An Italian court reconvicting Amanda Knox of slander. This after she was exonerated in the brutal 2007 murder of her British roommate. Knox spent 4 years in jail for the murder of Meredith Kirscher. Knox told the court she was sorry she didn't try harder to retract the accusation. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. Rain, with some of it heavy, leading to flooding concerns for parts of Texas and in Arkansas beginning this morning. And then we have rain coming through Chicago with areas of rain and storms into tomorrow for parts of New England. We'll watch for some strong storms there, including in Maine and Massachusetts on Thursday. Meanwhile, parts of the West Coast continue with dry weather, but also very hot weather too. More on that coming up in 10 minutes.
Thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Bree Driscoll. Today is Wednesday, June 5th. Our top story, President Joe Biden's sweeping actions at the southern border are now in effect. The president facing criticisms from both sides of the aisle, and now the American Civil Liberties Union announcing plans to challenge the move in court. Biden's new executive action allows the government to ban some migrants who cross the border illegally from seeking asylum. Spectrum's national reporter Angie Gonzalez joins us now with more. Angie, are we seeing any impact yet?
So, Bree, we're going to be relying heavily on numbers provided to us by Customs and Border Protection officials in terms of deportations, because this effort really focused on those who have previously tried to claim asylum away from ports of entry. Now, those people under the new rule could face deportation to Mexico or their home countries in a matter of hours or days without being given the opportunity to have their asylum claims heard. Now, these new restrictions do not apply to unaccompanied children. What to watch out for now is whether this action raises the number of people that we see going to ports of entry to claim asylum. Now, Bree, the assumption was this executive order would go into effect at 12:01 a.m. this morning because it is triggered by the number of border encounters between ports of entry and when it hits 2,500 per day, and recent numbers have been higher than that. Bree?
And Angie, President Biden said he was forced to act because Congress hadn't. Is tackling this issue expected to help him leading into the November election?
So his Republican opponent, former President Donald Trump, seized on the announcement saying Biden was, quote, pretending to do something on the issue. Now, during that press conference where Biden made this announcement, there were a number of state and local leaders behind the president showing their support for it. There are, however, some within Biden's own party who blasted the president for taking these steps, calling them similar to those that were taken during the Trump administration. Meanwhile, Republicans in Congress, Bree, they have called for more border restrictions, but they also effectively killed a bipartisan border deal in the Senate earlier this year. They say this action is too little, too late. Bree?
Angie Gonzalez, thank you very much. Arizona voters will now decide if it will be a state crime for non-citizens to enter the U.S. through Mexico at any location other than a port of entry. The Arizona legislature gave final approval for the proposal yesterday, bypassing the state's Democratic governor, who vetoed a similar measure earlier this year. If passed in November, state and local police would be able to arrest those crossing the border without authorization. Lebanese soldiers capturing a gunman after a shooting outside of the U.S. Embassy in Beirut. The Lebanese military describing the man only as a Syrian national. He was shot after an exchange of fire lasting almost half an hour. Local media posting photos showing a bloodied man wearing a vest with the words Islamic State written in Arabic, though the attacker's motive has not officially been determined. The U.S. Embassy confirming the attack did not result in any casualties among its staff. Testimony continuing today in the Hunter Biden federal gun trial. Yesterday, prosecutors calling their first witness to the stand after the jury heard opening statements from both sides. The president's son has pleaded not guilty to legally purchasing and possessing a gun while abusing or being addicted to drugs. Our national political reporter, Taylor Popolars, is in Wilmington, Delaware, with the latest.
The jury spent hours Tuesday hearing testimony from an FBI agent who explained the agency's investigation into Hunter Biden and the extent of Biden's drug addiction in 2018, the year that he bought the gun at the center of this trial. Jurors were shown a variety of evidence, including photos of drugs allegedly exchanged between Hunter Biden and his dealers, copies of text and WhatsApp messages from his iCloud account and laptop, and bank statements showing how much money he was withdrawing to feed his cocaine addiction and attempts at rehab. President Joe Biden's son is being tried on 3 federal charges that accuse him of lying to a federally licensed gun dealer, falsely claiming on the application he was not a drug user, and illegally owning the gun for 11 days. First Lady Jill Biden and daughter Ashley were back in the courtroom for the second day in support of Hunter. He sat mostly still while the FBI agent played lengthy audio excerpts from his 2021 memoir that detailed his struggle to become sober. Our producer inside the room said several jurors yawned during the longer clips. In his opening statement, Hunter Biden's lawyer argued his client was addicted to alcohol, not cocaine, when the gun was purchased. He also argued Biden was rushed into buying the gun after casually stopping by the store and being coaxed into a sale. Testimony will resume here on Wednesday. Reporting in Wilmington, Delaware, Taylor Popolars, Spectrum News.
Prosecutors in the federal corruption trial against New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez releasing evidence to the public. An FBI agent testified she and her partner were taking surveillance photos and videos of Menendez eating at a D.C. steakhouse in 2019. Prosecutors allege these were meetings discussing the alleged bribes. Senator Menendez and 3 others are charged with bribery offenses. They have all pleaded not guilty. His wife Nadine will be tried separately this summer. Lawyers for Donald Trump are asking the judge overseeing his criminal hush money case to terminate the gag order against the former president. Trump argues the order is no longer justified since the trial is over. The gag order prevents Trump from talking about the judge's family or other key members in the trial. The judge held Trump in contempt of court during the trial and fined him $10,000 for violating the order. President Joe Biden is set to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky this week in Normandy, France. The White House saying the 2 leaders will meet as they attend commemorations for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, giving them the chance to discuss the current situation in Ukraine and America's continued support of the country's war efforts. Biden is also expected to meet with Zelensky at the G7 summit next week in Italy. A federal judge in North Carolina blocking some rules restricting access to abortion pills. The state previously required a doctor to prescribe the medication and only in person. The judge saying that's in conflict with the decisions of the FDA. Patients can now receive prescriptions through a practitioner other than a doctor. The judge, however, allowing some restrictions to remain in place, including requiring an ultrasound before obtaining a prescription. Ahead on Spectrum News, pressure continues to grow on Israel and Hamas to accept the latest ceasefire proposal as fighting drags on.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the reliability of our products and services. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez, and again, the hot weather is our big weather story for today. The heat wave is in the southwest and parts of California for several days. We have rain moving through the Midwest this morning, and showers and storms move east toward New England. First, let's talk about the excessive heat warning in place for parts of Arizona, Nevada, areas of California away from the coast, and even parts of Colorado will feel the heat in the days ahead. Temperatures here are going to be at least 100 degrees, if not up to 115 degrees in some spots. So this afternoon, Phoenix at 108, Las Vegas 109. We have Furnace Creek at 118 today. Areas from Sacramento to Bakersfield will be over 100 degrees for tomorrow. And look at Vegas, 112, same thing in Phoenix, El Paso, Texas, 106. This is the kind of heat where you want to make sure that you are in air conditioning as much as you can. Make sure your pets are inside too. Take frequent breaks and drink plenty of water if you have to be outside in the middle of the day. Now in the Midwest, we have rain coming through parts of Wisconsin and Illinois with some rain this morning and then decreasing rain chances this afternoon. Chicago near 80, Des Moines mostly sunny and 84 degrees, Indianapolis stormy conditions with 81, and Kansas City lots of sunshine today in the 80s today and then dropping down to the 60s tonight. The areas of rain and storms coming across parts of Kentucky, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio, so our chances of rain are increasing, and we have a small risk of a tornado and some severe weather in Ohio today. We also have a risk of some hail in parts of New England, including in Maine Thursday. This is tomorrow morning. Look at this rain for New York, Hartford, Boston, Philly, and Washington, D.C. will continue to have some chances with these areas continuing to dry out behind that boundary for us on Thursday. We'll talk more about the heat in Texas coming up.
Well, if you're just joining us or heading out the door, here's a look at what you need to know. President Joe Biden's executive order on the U.S.-Mexico border is now in effect. Under the order, migrants caught crossing illegally could be deported or turned back to their country of origin. Witness testimony continuing today in Hunter Biden's gun trial. The president's son is accused of illegally purchasing and possessing a gun while abusing drugs. If convicted, he faces 25 years in prison. And millions in the Southwest are under heat advisories today. Forecasters say some places could also set new records. And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. ER doctors expecting an increase in patients experiencing heat-related illnesses during this season's first heat wave that we've been telling you about. Our Jamie Kennedy takes a look at some of the health risks facing one of our most vulnerable populations.
That's a good girl. That's a good girl.
For Taffy Scholl, when extreme heat days come along, she says being unhoused, it's her dog she prioritises first.
I make a shade fort for him, and then I give her ice and ice her down.
The National Weather Service says from Tuesday through Thursday there is a major heat risk for Northern California's interior, with at least 2 days of temperatures reaching over 100 degrees. Something Taffy says is never easy to deal with in a tent, especially as she's had heat-related illnesses in the past during her 3 years unhoused.
I got dizzy and I felt like I was going to throw up. You know, felt really nauseous for a while and then had to cool down. But it's like, I'm always busy, so to sit and take a break it's hard for me.
The California Department of Health reports climate change is expected to increase the frequency of heat waves along with prolonged months of high heat. The CDC reports from 2017 to 2021, 164 heat-related deaths were reported in the state. Dr. Andrew Elms is the chief medical doctor at Kaiser South Sacramento's emergency department and says as much as the area is used to hot weather, the first heat waves of the year can catch people off guard.
Whenever we get kind of heat waves like this, we always see an increase in heat-related illnesses.
The state's first heat wave coinciding with the US Health and Human Services Department launching their new Heat and Health Index to help local officials identify communities at the zip code level most likely to experience negative health outcomes from heat. Both the city and county of Sacramento have opened several cooling centres for those in need. Taffy says because of her dog she isn't always able to use cooling centres, so is preparing as best she can with what she has.
Make sure that I have a patio now and a roof over everything so to keep it cool and do the best I can.
She says the key for her and her dog after erecting extra shade, finding the ice she says is vital to weathering the next few days. Jamie Kennedy, Spectrum News.
Senior Biden administration officials are in the Middle East this week to continue talks on a possible ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Axios reporting CIA Director Bill Burns, who has been the administration's lead during negotiations, is visiting Qatar while Middle East coordinator Brett McGurk is in Egypt. Both countries have been key mediators in the indirect talks in the war. The visits come amid a diplomatic push by the White House to encourage Hamas and Israel to accept the latest ceasefire proposal. The House passing legislation seeking sanctions against the International Criminal Court for requesting arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli officials. Spectrum's Carla Redditt has the latest.
As displaced Palestinians returned to their homes Tuesday in Khan Yunis, finding many of them destroyed, the Israeli military continued to conduct targeted operations in nearby Rafah, shown in this video released by the IDF. Soldiers seen patrolling the territory as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened his war cabinet, with pressure growing on him to accept a ceasefire proposal.
The proposal on the table is nearly identical to what Hamas said it would accept just a few weeks ago. Israel has said it is ready to implement it. It is time to finalize this agreement, put an end to the violence, and to build a better future for both Palestinians and Israelis alike.
Meanwhile, House Republicans Tuesday voted to pass legislation that would sanction the International Criminal Court for seeking the arrest of Netanyahu.
At every opportunity, Joe Biden has turned his back on Israel, most recently refusing to sanction the International Criminal Court following their politically motivated targeting of Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. The ICC must be immediately sanctioned.
Their demands come as the deaths of 4 more Israeli hostages were confirmed Monday. Around 80 hostages captured on October 7th are believed to still be alive in Gaza, alongside the remains of 43 others. Carla Redditt, Spectrum News.
Coming up on Spectrum News, a nonprofit using artificial intelligence to help better understand and treat ALS patients.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our
our back and forth, it always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Hi, I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez, and we continue with temperatures well above normal and some dangerous heat expected for parts of the Southwest and in Texas, especially the southern areas of Texas. San Antonio, 98 degrees there with a heat advisory. Look at El Paso, 101. Phoenix, 107 degrees today. Lows there tonight are going to drop down to the low 80s. Meanwhile, we'll have some 60s in Oklahoma City. New Orleans, 78 degrees for tonight. Tomorrow, Austin's at 96 degrees. Dallas is 95, but it's hotter in Midland, in El Paso, and in Phoenix, which is going to have another day of temperatures well above normal. Want to show you the forecast for next week. So we're looking ahead to next week. Warmer than normal conditions expected for the west, for parts of Texas, including southern Texas, and for Florida too. But some areas from the Great Lakes into the Midwest, and even parts of the southeast, could experience those cooler than normal conditions next week. We'll be drier in the northwest next week, and then have above chances for rain in parts of Colorado down to Texas, for Florida too, and up the East Coast, including into New England, where it looks like those chances will be higher next week. Now today we're watching showers and storms in the Midwest. Some have been very heavy with some strong storms and heavy rain that moved through the Dallas area early this morning. And then look at those storms in Louisiana and Mississippi. Rain comes into Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, and into Virginia. And you notice those areas of rain coming up Thursday, and that's going to impact you in New England, parts of the Northeast like New York City. Tomorrow looks to be umbrella weather. We'll have scattered thunderstorms for parts of Florida for Thursday. Behind this cold front, though, we have high pressure building in, so we do get drier across the Dakotas and into Nebraska. On the East Coast, New York City, 82 degrees. Clouds will be increasing before that rain arrives tomorrow. Boston's 86 and partly sunny, but Washington, D.C., showers and some storms to watch for. Atlanta, Georgia's 85 degrees, and Miami's up to 88 with a low temperature of 80. We have hot, humid weather expected in the Sunshine State with scattered thunderstorms around. Jacksonville at 92 degrees for today. St. Louis is 84 degrees, while Denver's climbing to 93. We're keeping it cooler in the northwest with lows in the 50s, 60s, and 70s on the Gulf Coast tonight.
Major League Baseball banning San Diego Padres infielder Tucupita Marcano for life for betting on baseball. The MLB saying he placed nearly 400 bets totaling more than $150,000 in recent years. Marcano is now the first active big league player to receive a lifetime ban in a century. Pete Rose agreed to a lifetime ban in 1989 for betting on Cincinnati Reds games while managing the team. The league also suspending 4 other players for 1 year for betting. A nonprofit is using artificial intelligence to better understand ALS patients. The disease impacts nerve cells in the spinal cord and brain. Now, as part of the new study, AI analyzes voice recordings of patients in hopes of improving communication. Spectrum's Melissa Eichman introduces us to a couple enrolled in the study and shows us how it's impacting their lives.
Please say pipe.
Paul.
Great.
Paul Beach is part of a speech study to help advance the diagnosis and prognosis of ALS.
Count up from 1 for as long as you can until you run out of breath.
1, 2,
Great.
Paul, a successful businessman and active weekend warrior, was diagnosed with ALS in 2019.
He was having a hard time buttoning his shirts and his ties, a little bit of difficulty writing, and then felt clumsy.
His wife Martha's voice is also recorded as part of the research.
Please say peep.
Peep.
The advanced registered nurse practitioner in the area of neuroscience describes Paul's progression, saying he developed symptoms with speech over the last 6 months.
Initially, he had very little symptoms, as most people do, and the concern for us was how progressive, how rapid, which people are unable to predict.
Using an assistive device, Paul says he hopes participating in this study will help change those predictions.
With the technology available now, precious time can be saved. I want people to be able to be diagnosed earlier.
The couple is also concentrating on helping other families through that diagnosis by launching the ALS International Foundation.
We are focused on care. One of the areas, the opportunity that we see is just helping cope, psychological counseling, and that ability to help everyone that's been affected emotionally and psychologically.
And Paul is writing a book, a personal perspective on how words have mattered.
You can give someone hope, or you can take it away from them very quickly in the way they say those words.
The Beaches hope getting their message out in several ways helps raise awareness.
So much of our lives we take for granted. Simple pleasures like a glass of wine or touching your lover's face. I want everyone to relish these things.
Sharing their personal journey to empower those impacted by ALS.
He's my hero. He gives me strength. I couldn't do this without him.
Strength and hope to help others, no matter how it's voiced. In Pinellas County, Melissa Eichman, Spectrum News.
It's inspiring to see their dedication to helping others amid their own challenges. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual, and she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, "Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out."